women like to date up. They don't date down. Men have a tendency economically to date down or equal, but they tend to more often date down. They like to find women who are in some way going to see them as a provider, a protector. That's something men enjoy. It's also something that many women enjoy, having a man who is a provider and protector. So essentially what this comes down to is when women are in a position that they are elevated professionally. So they get a raise at work, they get a promotion at work, they're now CEO of the company instead of CMO or whatever it might be. It gets harder for them to date up. Because if you're already the CEO, that's as up as it gets. So you have to find someone who's the CEO of a better company than yours, or someone who's the CFO of a company that's much larger than yours. If you're Fortune 500, you got to find someone Fortune 50. Now, again, are these phenomenon locked in? No, of course. There's plenty of Fortune 500 CEOs.
I always want you to take into account how men are framing that. So men always, when they frame hypergamy, which is this dating up, the only way that they frame that is through finances. Because if we changed what we see as hypergamy, somebody dating up, and we took appearance into consideration, it would be the inverse, right? But they love to use this one metric of women date up for financial stability, and men don't do that. They don't really care. But the reality is it's failing to take into account why that exists. Why would women not care what men look like generally, but care deeply about their financial capabilities? And that's because for generations, centuries, women could not have bank accounts, they could not have credit cards, they could not own property, none of it could be in their name, it always had to be in the name of a man. So and not only that, but during that time, which was not long ago, the 70s, during that time, it wasn't you who really got to pick your partner. A lot of the times, it was your family members, more specifically, your father. That is why men would have to go to the dad to ask for a woman's hand in marriage, because he would have to get permission from the father, because it was a transfer of property. So when men talk about hypergamy and talk about how women always date up, they never take into account anything that they personally do. They only care about the financial component because that's where they have to meet women. So all of a sudden it's hypergamy. But when we talk about men chasing women who are more attractive than them, because generally that's what we see in relationships, it's suddenly not dating up. It's suddenly just standards. It's suddenly just a preference. It's suddenly no longer a part of this hypergamy. It's suddenly no longer part of the conversation, right? Because it's what men care about, and that should just be the standard. And it's really important to remember how men are framing these conversations, because they are only judging women based off of values and things that they personally have to reach. Women have to conform to beauty standards, which includes plastic surgery, which includes, even getting your hair done, doing your makeup, doing your nails, all these things, in order for men to perceive them as valuable. That they don't care about money, they care about beauty. But they don't consider that part of hypergamy, they don't consider that dating up, because it frames them in a more negative light. So of course it's easy to come on the internet and say, well, women date up all the time, because the only metric you're using is one that you personally, one, created, and two, benefit from. It benefits you to point out that women tend to date men for financial stability because you hope to make that not the case. But when women say that they want a guy who's a certain height, when they say that they don't want a balding guy, when they say they have physical preferences, men get up in arms. They get extremely defensive because they can't control those things. Well, women couldn't control having a bank account either, right? Like women didn't have the right to vote, right? In a lot of the states, they don't even have the right over their own body. In Afghanistan, they're in rooms without windows, not allowed to show any portion of their body. They just overturned age restrictions for marriage, for child marriages. And again, when we talk about child marriages and people who are being married off as children, it's always little girls and never little boys. But they don't talk about hypergamy there, right? They only frame it as this one component, which is finances. And then even in the framing of that, why do women who make more money want to date someone who's doing better than them? A lot of the times because men who don't make a lot of money feel emasculated by women who make more. And women know this. So they choose to date men who are more successful than them in some capacity because they will not have to pay for that man's insecurity emotionally. Because again, we're not considering the emotional labor that women tend to put in relationships. The actual labor, they just dwindle it down to hypergamy is just when women want to date men with more money.